So like I said, I want to make a quicker, shorter version of the other video, just to make sure you guys kind of have that down and ready to go for tiling of rooms, right? So remember, you just kind of find a good repeatable tiled texture. Textures.com has them. Obviously, you can do Google searches. Just be careful of watermarks when you do a Google search. In this case, though, I still have my distortion texture on there. So, I'm in shading view, and you can just kind of go right in here in your nodes, and you can easily just grab that grid and just get rid of it, right? One of the other things we're going to want to make sure of as well is probably go to 3 for face mode, right? And I'm going to want to select these faces. And remember, you can always just right-click. That brings up your face context menus. You can just do separate, right? Separate selection. And that will make sure that that floor is its own separate object, right? And this is kind of some of the things we want to do with those things, right? Now in this case, I'm just going to maybe go right here. Although, if you go to the red ball here, you'll have it right here as well. You just click in there and you just say, hey, let's call this floor, right? There we go. And of course, we can go up to here, and you'll see that there's a floor there, but you'll notice that we have that little kind of, looks like a page on top of a page. It's also right here. That's new material, so you can click on that, right? And that gives you something called floor 2, and this one we'll call walls, right? And now you'll see that there are, in fact, when we go to this pull down, floor and walls. And so we kind of have a material for each of these separate objects. Now, at this point, of course, if I want to, I could go and I could create nodes here, but I can also plug them in here. And in this case, I'll just go to UV editing just to kind of make it a little easier for us. So remember that little kind of nice red sphere down here, that's your material stuff, right? We've talked about that plenty of times. Good to talk about it again. And I just want to plug in something for base color, right? So I go to the little yellow dot for base color, click on that. That brings up this, right? And we go to image texture because we just want to plug a texture in. Now, in this case, I've got new if I wanted to create something new, but I could also just go to open if I wanted to, right? So new would create a brand new texture you can paint. But if you just want to open an existing texture, which that's what we're doing with the room, right? We're trying to actually create an actual picture on this stuff, right? Or an already existing one that's been made for us or already works. So what I can do is I can go to open, right? And that can take us to wherever you've loaded your textures in, right? I can just go to my textures here, and I can look for some environment stuff. Remember, you can always, if you want to, you can go to kind of thumbnails here. And that can kind of be a cool way to look at some stuff and kind of figure out what you want. Let's see here. I'm just trying to figure out what textures will work well. At this point, I'm just going to kind of show you the basics of it, the mechanics, right? So this will probably work well for a floor. So let's click on that one, open image. And we can see that that floor is now on there, right? Plugged in and everything. So now if I want to, of course, I could go to 4 for object mode. I can click on this object. Do the same thing here, right? It's going to go to the walls material now. Particularly, we've got that little red guy right here. And I can just click on that yellow dot, image texture. And then we'll go to open again, right? Because it brings this up here. So we go to open. And then, of course, we go to find stuff. Now, in this case, like I said, it's kind of what you want, what you found was interesting for texturing. I'm just going to use some generic stuff just for the sake of it. I think this will kind of work as a kind of pseudo science fiction one. Remember, though, you want textures that are highly repetitive, right? And ideally don't have seams, right? They're either already cut into perfect kind of tiles, or it looks like the actual shapes would mirror over on the other side. And remember, we'll have both those videos in there. This one will just be the quicker, shorter version of the mechanical aspects of it that are kind of getting dropped out sometimes in the first video. So we'll do open image, and there we go. And of course, all we really have to do at this point then is, I've got the walls on. I can hit 3 for face mode, Control A because it'll select all of the face materials. And from here, what I can do is I can just go to 4, right? Because 4 is object mode, but here it's your islands. And remember, if you hit R for scale, you can start to scale up these textures bigger than the actual texture quadrant here, right? So you can actually scale this up bigger than the actual texture quadrant. And you'll see that it actually has those repeat, right? So I can click on this one if I want to, R for scale. I can scale this one up to kind of roughly match that size. So I went a little too far there. There we go. We can see we can kind of start to match them up. Click on this one. R, no, scale's already on, so I don't have to worry about that too much, right? Scale this up bigger. Remember, you can hit W for move if you want to move them around. And that can make it pretty easy to kind of line them up if you want to kind of line them up better. And one of the reasons why I like using this instead of a node, because technically you could do nodes for these things, right? There are some node functionality. I have direct control over each island, right? In this case, my islands aren't necessarily rotated, but if they were, because remember we have our rotate 90 degrees, you'd see how kind of this one on this side is not going to necessarily line up exactly the way those other ones would. But remember, you have the ability to rotate these around, and that's what I love about this. And you can always rotate it, right? Just E. Is that you kind of have this basic kind of functionality where you can just tile your textures up here, right? So kind of good to remember that, that you can do these things, that you can tile textures and kind of get them to line up here. And you can see we've got kind of the walls, right? And that's kind of the idea about game texturing, right? And I'm doing this kind of just quick and dirty as a reminder of this stuff. And it's a demonstration of really the tiling of the texture part, right? The better your texture source, the nicer the tiling will lay out, right? And then of course I go to 4 so I can select the floor, and then I can 3 for faces, Control A. Just hit R for scale to scale this up a lot, right? There we go. And we see that actually ends up having that repeat as well. And you can see here that these probably aren't the best sourced perfect tile ones, right? I'm just using the ones I already had lying around that I don't necessarily use for tiling or seamless textures. That's the kind of thing where you guys can easily find your own. Remember I kind of talked about it in the class and in the videos. But the idea behind this video is a quick, easy way to show you guys how to do your tiling, right? To kind of just show how to create the textures, load them in, a quick separate, and just kind of scaling up your UVs to have the textures repeat, right? You see this texture is now repeating all over those UVs because we made them bigger, right? So I just kind of wanted to get you guys to kind of see that basic mechanical level thing for our room. So this will just be a supplement to the other video. Still probably a good idea to watch that one as well, but this one kind of has no drop frames, so